All right, let's dive into Exodus chapter 34. This is an incredible story about what happens after a total disaster. It's about getting a second chance, about a stunning revelation, and about a transformation so powerful it literally shines.
So just imagine this for a second. Moses has just come down from Mount Sinai with the Ten Commandments carved by God himself. But he finds his people worshiping a golden calf. And in this moment of just white-hot anger, he smashes the tablets. The covenant is literally shattered on the ground. So that brings up the huge question that drives this whole chapter. What happens now? Where do you go from there?
Now, you'd think the story would pick up with some serious punishment, right? But that's not what happens. It starts with an instruction for renewal. God tells Moses, hey, go carve 2 new stone tablets, just like the first ones you broke, and I'll write the words on them again. This isn't just about replacing a broken object. It's about restoring a broken relationship. It's a do-over.
The scene here is just so heavy, so solemn. At dawn, Moses has to make that climb up Mount Sinai all over again. But this time, there's a really important rule. He has to go alone. No one else can come. This is going to be a private, deeply personal encounter. Just Moses, 2 blank stones, and God waiting for him at the top.
And what happens up there is just wow. As Moses is waiting, the Lord comes down in a cloud, stands right there with him, and does something absolutely extraordinary. He proclaims his own name, his own character. This is setting the stage for one of the most important moments of divine self-revelation in the entire Bible.
This is so crucial. Before God reissues the rules, he first defines who he is. It's like he's about to lay out his own divine resume, you know? He wants Moses, and by extension all of us, to understand his fundamental nature first.
So as the Lord passes in front of Moses, he reveals these core attributes. You can see them right here. There's this huge emphasis on mercy, grace, and forgiveness for thousands. But, and this is a really big but, he will by no means clear the guilty. This shows you that perfect, almost paradoxical balance in God's character. He has this immense compassion, but also this unwavering, absolute justice.
So how do you even respond to a declaration like that? Well, the text tells us Moses' reaction was immediate. He just bowed his head all the way to the ground and worshipped. There was no argument, no questions, no negotiating, just this instant, gut-level act of reverence. That tells you everything about the sheer power of this moment.
So once God's character has been laid bare, the conversation pivots to restoring the covenant, that sacred, binding agreement. God says, behold, I make a covenant, and he promises to do marvels, things that have never been seen before. The second chance is now official.
Now, this renewed deal comes with some very clear, non-negotiable rules. And the theme is all about singular focus, about loyalty. They're commanded, don't make alliances with the locals, tear down their places of worship, and worship no other God. The text is super explicit here, for the Lord whose name is a jealous God. And of course, there's that pointed reminder, make no molten gods, a direct jab at the whole golden calf fiasco.
But you know, the covenant isn't just a list of don'ts. It also sets up a whole rhythm for the community's life. It carves out specific times for rest, like the Sabbath, and it commands the people to get together for big celebrations all throughout the year.
3 times a year, all the men had to show up before the Lord for these big festivals. And these weren't just holidays. They were designed to weave the people's history, their dependence on the harvest, and their worship of God into this single, beautiful fabric of life. It was a constant reminder of who they were and where they came from.
So how long does all of this take? 40. 40 days and 40 nights. Moses is up on that mountain for 40 days. In the Bible, that number always seems to pop up for a period of testing or transition or some kind of transformation. And get this, during that entire time, the text says Moses ate no bread and drank no water. That's an experience completely outside the bounds of what's humanly possible. Okay, so when Moses finally comes down the mountain with the 2 new tablets, something is different. He has been physically changed by this intense encounter with God. But here's the thing, he has no idea. He's totally unaware that the skin on his face is literally glowing.
But everybody else sees it. Oh yeah, when his brother Aaron and the people of Israel look at him, they see his face shining and they are terrified. They are scared to even get close to him. The evidence of his time with God is written all over his face, creating this barrier of awe and fear between him and his own people.
So what does Moses do about this? He comes up with a pretty practical system, using a veil. Whenever he went in to speak with the Lord, he'd take the veil off, standing face to face with the divine.
But when he came out to talk to the people, he'd put the veil back on. He basically became this living bridge, managing that intimidating boundary between the holy presence of God and the human community.
So Exodus 34 ends not just with a new set of laws, but with a renewed leader, someone who is physically marked by his experience. And it leaves us with this really fascinating question to think about. For Moses, the change was a literal shining light. It kind of makes you wonder, how do our own profound experiences, those moments of awe or truth or forgiveness, how do they leave their own visible marks on us?